Missed it, in our prior session, we saw for the first time the presentation of the 2020 Aerospace Economic Impact Study. That session is now archived on SC Biz TV, and you can watch it whenever you wish. Our next session is called Collaboration Produces Innovation. The South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center, better known as SC TAC, is the presenting sponsor of this session. SC TAC is home to the state's largest general aviation airport and to more than 100 companies. Here to speak on their behalf is SC TAC President and CEO Jody Bryson.
Hello, my name is Jody Bryson, President and CEO of the South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center, located in Greenville, South Carolina. We are honored to sponsor the 2020 South Carolina Manufacturing Conference. The South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center, otherwise known as SC TAC, is home to 112 advanced manufacturing companies, including 3M, Michelin, and Lockheed Martin. We are strategically located between Charlotte and Atlanta, in the heart of the I-85 boom belt, just minutes from beautiful downtown Greenville. Our 2,600-acre business park features a very unique combination of manufacturing industry assets. Donaldson Field, South Carolina's largest general aviation airport, is strategically focused on the state's aerospace industry and is the new global production home of Lockheed Martin's world-class F-16 fighter jet. The International Transportation Innovation Center is South Carolina's only publicly owned and operated automotive test bed and serves a growing number of automotive clientele. We recently broke ground on a $2 million durability track element that will complement our 2.5 miles of existing test track. SC TAC has proudly served our state's aerospace, automotive, and advanced manufacturing industries for the past 56 years, creating a $2 billion economic impact to our state's economy. As we like to say, at SC TAC, your business is cleared for takeoff. Thanks, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Jody, and thanks to SC TAC for sponsoring this session, Collaboration Produces Innovation. The South Carolina Council on Competitiveness is a nonprofit organization that drives long-term economic growth, in part by managing the state's industry clusters, which include aerospace, logistics, SC Fraunhofer, and SC Tech and SC Cyber. Susie Shannon is the council's CEO, and she's here now to lead a conversation among the leaders within those clusters. Susie, I appreciate you taking part today. It's all yours.
Thanks, Rick, for having us. Now let's take a look at a sit-down that I did with our cluster directors and our SC Fraunhofer USA Alliance director, as well as 2 of our cluster board chairs. So South Carolina is home to some of the most successful and innovative companies in aerospace, automotive, agribusiness, life sciences, and other manufacturing sectors. We build cars, boats, commercial aircraft, and military aircraft. We make tires, we roast coffee. We have a logistics ecosystem, whether we're talking about rail, roads, maritime, air freight, that works to ensure we are getting the products we make out the door faster and farther. We have an exploding technology and cybersecurity sector, and all over the state, by the way, and not just in the usual suspect places, that do allow us to be more efficient in our manufacturing process, and which is emerging strong as its own sharp edge economic engine. So it's a great time to be doing business in South Carolina. Within this context, the idea for today is to talk about how we are looking to do our part in a cross-sectoral approach to support strengthening and diversifying South Carolina's economic base. The council first formed when more than 15 years ago, the state's heavy hitters looked at our state's economic foundations and found we simply could not compete. We needed a plan. Then we brought in a global guy, a guy by the name of Michael Porter from Harvard, who had these large ideas about how communities and geographies compete. So the council, also branded under the name New Carolina for a while, was born. And the backbone of what we do every day is managing industry clusters. So what is a cluster? Simply, it is a small group of companies who are explicitly working together to fundamentally change their cost structure, their shared marketing, their shared research, their shared vendor relationships as both a direct and competitive weapon. So today, the Council signature clusters are focused on technology, aerospace, and logistics. Also inside those clusters, we concentrate on education and workforce development and actionable research, both for exploration and application to real-world problems. So with us today are Dave Edwards, President of GSP Airport and Chair of our SC Logistics Cluster Executive Forum, and Don Myers, Director of Aerospace Sales at Toray Composites and also Chair of our SC Aerospace Advisory Board. Direct from the Council team are Suzanne Dickerson, who leads our SC Fraunhofer USA Alliance program and previously our SC Logistics Cluster. And then from our Logistics Cluster, Taylor Jackson, who you will also hear from tomorrow as part of our Logistics Economic Impact Study segment. And Kim Christ, who directs our technology and cybersecurity initiatives. And then also Stephen Astemborkski, who today is leading our SC Aerospace Cluster initiative. So given this top-notch panel and the mission-critical topic of manufacturing, South Carolina's lifeblood industry sector, we promise there will be no dead air. So I'm going to sort of tip it over to the panel now and get us started. And Suzanne, you get to set the mood today by taking our opening question. And so let's kind of start off with, government needs to set the right policy to encourage or not get in the way of private sector, whether it's innovation, workforce, companies working together. And given what we've just sort of teed up around industry clusters, why does South Carolina need industry clusters like those at the Council, as well as around the state and other of our peer organizations, and how have those clusters helped our industries to grow? Why do we need them?
Thank you, Susie. You know, I've had an interesting relationship with this concept of clusters. When I think back to the days when I worked at CUICAR, where you have a 250-acre campus dedicated to the automotive industry and research and PhD programs in automotive engineering and so forth, I used to tell the story to companies who would come to visit us in South Carolina about the work that the Council had done and how the CUICAR campus was actually a response to the question, how do we best support our automotive industry here? You know, and companies like BMW and Michelin and Timken and others who also made investments into the campus were certainly, you know, of same mind about what was needed to help the automotive industry. And then when I left Clemson and came to the Council and was able to start up the SC Logistics Initiative in a newly branded format from the previous TDL version that we had, I saw what it meant, you know, on a day-to-day basis to engage companies across an industry segment, and how just having the networking, the applied research going on for the cluster, taking inventory of the cluster and looking at all the places where we could help it to grow and be healthier and more robust.
From my perspective, what I've seen from my time on the Council is that there's obviously a networking benefit, and you get to interact and collaborate and work with other aerospace companies in the state. There are some values when it comes to being able to get your voice heard, whether it's concerns over anything. And there's really an avenue to be able to get straight to, the state for programs needed, a way and a link to work any issues that you have. But I think the biggest advantage and value that the Council really provides is the network in the state. The supply chain is critical, and so being able to link with other companies that can either support your business, whether be a customer or supplier, I think is pretty valuable.
And today, in my role as the director of the Fraunhofer USA Alliance, I see it from yet another chair where we're looking at what do companies need on a day-to-day basis, where collaboration with our university partners makes a difference to them in their competitiveness, in their workforce, and in their day-to-day operations when they use some of the resources that we've made available to them through the Fraunhofer Alliance to be better and to grow. So it's a quantifiable and significant impact, I think, on the clusters, and I think that's the important role that the council plays.
So Taylor, Suzanne talked about the logistics piece, and so it's enough to say that things do have to work together. You know, we have to have somebody around who wants what we have to make, to sell, to offer. You know, when you work together, you win. And so what are the benefits of collaboration between and among the cluster and with other allies like the Automotive Council, for instance?
As always, networking and collaborating with your peers plays a vital role. Working with our other allies such as SC Bio, SC Auto, it ensures that everyone is doing what is best for South Carolina and working towards a united future on making our state the place to live and do business. So I think the key is the state's network of clusters and allies are key in determining the long-term success for the state.
I really think it gets back to that collaboration piece, knowing the other players that are in this arena, that where we're all responsible for some form or fashion of that logistics chain, understanding their challenges that they may have, and those people understanding the challenges we may have at the airport can only make us better holistically from a state perspective in trying to serve the citizens of South Carolina. And that's, you know, I always look at this as, you know, we're here to serve others. I know we have private sector businesses, we have public sector, you know, organizations that are part of SC Logistics, but being able to pull all of those together in order to make sure that we're doing things that are going to benefit the citizens of South Carolina is extremely important. So that collaboration piece and understanding the challenges that each of the various aspects of the logistics chain has proved to be important to me to truly get my arms around, you know, what we need to try to focus on as an entire sector.
Great, thanks for that. So we know the power of clusters, we know the power of working together, particularly in advanced industries, is essential for job creation. We've seen the proximity to competitors and suppliers. You know, it allows those companies to share supply chains, infrastructure, R&D, and the workforce. And of course, the end game is more growth and innovation. You know, when we look at the payoff to an aerospace supplier that comes to South Carolina to make, let's say, upholstered products for a Boeing or a Lockheed Martin, and then we help connect them to an opportunity to procure a contract perhaps to make a similar product for BMW, Mercedes, Volvo. You know, the idea is to elevate the competitiveness and double the workforce if possible. Certainly that diversification is key. So what are you seeing the benefits of collaboration?
Thanks, Susie. You know, I see the benefit in being able to create that network and create connections that may not have been there in the past. You know, and as everybody will see with our economic impact study, when we do this research and we put out kind of a baseline of where the state has been in the past, it allows us to identify what areas we maybe had holes in our aerospace economy that we can then go try to fill, you know, in the future. And so using that baseline, we can now connect companies to advocate, to try to bring other suppliers online so that we can have a more diverse background. And we already have a pretty diverse statewide aerospace economy between, you know, the commercial sector with, you know, the big player Boeing in North Charleston, and then in the military sector with Lockheed Martin in Greenville, but then all those other suppliers in support services, whether it's making parts or it's engineering or you know, any of those companies that go into building those aircraft. we can really help to create that network and open up those lines of communication. And then, another piece where, our cluster helps is by getting the connection to those educational institutions, working with schools that are, K through 12 to bring STEM education into the classroom so that we have a workforce that's ready to go build the products that are here. Or it's working with, the McNair Center at the University of South Carolina to make sure that we have a highly educated, advanced workforce to help design and the next, generation of parts for what we already make here. So I think the networking amongst the businesses and then tying in with, with students at the young age to make sure that we grow the next crop of aerospace professionals is.
Thanks, Stephen. You rolled right into an important facet that every industry, every company faces every day. Sometimes I think we're running the state on a fast-moving treadmill. We have a lot of people moving here. We have a lot of industry and jobs locating and expanding here. And certainly the state has done a phenomenal job, particularly over the last decade or so, in diversifying our economic base. But at the end of the day, tomorrow's workforce is still today's challenge. And Kim, when you look at the technology ecosystem around the state, what do you see a technology industry cluster looking like, and how can it help the technology sector grow inside of South Carolina?
Thanks, Susie. Yeah, indeed. Technology is a huge burgeoning area, right? And what we know is that it's the backbone for all industry, and we really do work in tandem with all the clusters at the council. When we think about the way an airplane or a train system work, we know that technology is integral to the way that those companies use data, and also we need to think about cybersecurity and the way that we protect the data and those platforms. In South Carolina right now, the tech industry accounts for about 6% of our state economy, and we see that with the study, some of the preliminary results show that we've expanded by over 5,000 jobs just in 2019, and that we will continue to grow. Some of the projected growth numbers are that we'll be the 4th highest growth in technology nationally by 2023. And all of those industry clusters that we represent at the council depend on that job growth and the growth as a technology cluster in general. So we're here to support all those companies that don't have a unified voice yet, since this is not something that's been represented in the state as a statewide entity before. Our job is to pull together those leading industry experts and voices that can help us pioneer that direction that we need to go as a state to ensure that we remain competitive and grow on a national field. One of the things that we're doing as part of SC Tech's offering to the community is putting on a tech-specific statewide career fair. It'll be a virtual career fair that allows companies to match with candidates that are looking for specific jobs in technology across South Carolina. We'd love to have participation from all sectors that represent technology shops or workforce before. Our job is to pull together those leading industry experts and voices that can help us pioneer that direction that we need to go as a state to ensure that we remain competitive and grow on a national field, not only in workforce development, but in ensuring that some of those technologies of the future are being planned for and represented here in our state.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kim. So Taylor, that kind of brings me over to you, right? Kim sort of previewed a little bit of our statewide technology economic impact study that we're going to release later this fall. And we're already beginning to see that there is exponential growth, for instance, in a certain industry vertical inside of the technology jobs as a whole. So can you talk to us a little bit about, the role and the complement of advanced manufacturing, logistics, and technology, and what we're seeing, and what we may need to sort of polish up the crystal ball as jobs do become more multi-crafted, and we start to build additional competencies around manufacturing and technology, but specifically logistics to support that sector. Taylor, can you talk a little bit about that, please?
A number that came out that really stood out to Dr. Von Dessen and I is that the logistics industry depends on tech 3 times more now than 10 years ago in 2010. And advanced manufacturing's reliance on technology has doubled since our last study was published in 2017. So these numbers show that logistics and supply chain is going to lean very heavily on tech. And, with 2020 being the year how it is, it's really shown that retail, e-commerce is, it's here now. It was in the future, it's here now. And the reliance on the supply chain for tech is just really going to keep increasing. So we really need to play that pivotal role in South Carolina on making sure that both these sectors grow together and kind of, depend on each other equally for that. It really makes South Carolina an exciting place to be right now, and it shows a lot of promise on both of these industries moving forward.
We are seeing that importance of technology continuing to rise, whether that's through automation within actual warehousing operations, or just using software platforms in order to better process various logistics activity. And so I think, whether that's in air, again, or in other modes, it cuts across all of us. And I think it's just very important and ties in very well to that advanced manufacturing piece, which has become highly automated as well here in the upstate and throughout the state of South Carolina. When we're talking, as we talked about technology as an example, that infiltrates everything we're doing. When we're talking about aerospace, which we are focused on as well as a key component, logistics ties into that, both in the form of supplying potentially to aerospace related development and companies here in the state, but also that aerospace, as we talked about with air cargo as well, also helps move product in and out of the state. So I think, when you talk about cybersecurity, extremely important today for all of us, for all modes, being able to ensure the privacy and the movement and of product in and around the state is key. So I think all of these are just interdependent clusters on each other in order for us to be successful holistically in the logistics arena.
So now that we know that digitization is here, the factory, the future is in the here and now, we know that technology impacts every industry, every company, every employee, every day. So we've really got to look hard at research and innovation and what that looks like and what we can do to help support our companies. So Suzanne, I'm going to toggle over to you now. When we carry out our research, it can sometimes feel like champagne cork burst of information. But we know in having a really deep and broad look at research and innovation inside of companies is absolutely vital.
Yeah, Susie, the Fraunhofer network is such an interesting and unusual constellation, really. It is the world's largest applied research network. Within the DNA of Fraunhofer, it has always been part of their character to partner with universities, so we have done that here as well. But what I think is the most interesting accomplishment in the short time, as you mentioned, that the Council has been managing the South Carolina Fraunhofer USA Alliance, we started with only one of those centers as a partner, and the one that we started with was the Center for Experimental Software Engineering that's based in Maryland. But it's exciting to me that we've actually been able to expand our alliance to not just that one center. So today, companies can take advantage of the South Carolina Fraunhofer USA Alliance and the matching funding, a dollar-for-dollar cash match for industry partners who are interested in collaboration, not only with the center that's doing the experimental software, the data analytics, the Industry 4.0 type of work, but also coatings and chemistry, energy systems, automation, molecular bioengineering, and others. So, we're really, based on the diverse manufacturing footprint and topography and demographics of our industry here, we really wanted to be able to offer even more.
So what role does research and innovation play in your initiative?
It plays the primary role, right? So in the short time that we've been managing the South Carolina Fraunhofer USA Alliance at the council, we've already approved, started, and completed, in some cases, applied research projects for the logistics industry, for the aerospace industry, for the automotive industry, and most recently for life sciences. So, I think that helps to confirm the demand that research and innovation are playing in our state. All that's been discussed already about how big a role technology is playing in all of these industry sectors. This goes hand in hand with what we're doing with the Fraunhofer Alliance, right? We think of it as turning research into products at the pace of business. And we certainly couldn't do that without an exceptional board. The review board is, as you know, it takes this very, very seriously, and we are very responsive. I think companies are surprised when we tell them we will turn around their application in a matter of days, and we will get them a response, and we will get started right away. The projects tend to be shorter term because they're closer to technology and production in many cases, and so these are not long-term more theoretical research projects. These are really, there's an immediate challenge and there's an immediate applied research response. And we're seeing those results kick in quickly. What I like in particular too is that in every case, the conversation at the board is around how far is this past state of the art? We're not complicit in just doing and approving applied research projects that are just at the envelope's edge. I feel like one of the things that we're really doing well is pushing this beyond and then looking at how can we take what's being approved and what's being produced inside the Alliance with our research partners at Clemson University and the University of South Carolina, the technical colleges that have been involved. And I think we're seeing really great results, and it's early. We haven't had this partnership that long, and it's already having such a huge impact.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. Certainly some cool things going on there. And if history teaches us that thinking across disciplines is a secret to success, then I think we've got a winning recipe here. And certainly the state's investment in this program, the participation by industry and companies and by research faculty will certainly produce dividends absolutely for years to come. So Kim, in looking at the technology sector, how have our industry partners responded to some of these recent challenges?
Well, Susie, what we know is that prior to the pandemic, the technology sector was the second most common occupation for remote workers in the country. So we anticipate that with the changing climate, with the way that technology companies were able to pivot and move most of their productivity to remote environments, that we expect to see technology move to that number one spot. and to be the number one most predominant remote job in the country. And that has a great impact across our state, particularly in our rural regions, which allow for those knowledge sector jobs that are usually much more high-paying jobs. In South Carolina alone, a technology job has an average salary of over $70,000 a year, which is about $30,000 higher than the state average. And if we can employ our workforce in those remote regions, as well as our, major regions of Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville, we can really see a great impact to our state's economy and also to our ability to compete nationally with drawing in technology companies and other companies that rely on emergent technology.
All right, so Stephen, I'm going to come over to you now and sort of, let's point to the most impactful thing that SC Aerospace Cluster has accomplished. Still a lot of great things going on inside of aerospace. And so how can we be primed to move to the next level? And what do you view as the most impactful thing that we've imprinted on the state inside of SC Aerospace?
Thanks, Susie. I think our most impactful thing is the diversification of the aerospace industry that we have been able to promote and help grow. As COVID hit, there's no denying that was going to have an impact on the aerospace industry. But where we've seen us take a hit in some ways, we've also seen some growth in others. So if we look at a place like Lockheed Martin, they are still getting, big orders for F-16s now that we have the F-16 line here, and we're seeing growth around suppliers moving here to be able to support that program. We look at a place like ACL Air Shop, which produces materials for cargo freight. They have seen a great amount of growth because of the impacts of COVID. And then, like I said, on the other side, there's no denying that we have seen some pullback and some drawback because of the drawdown in passenger travel. As companies, for example, Boeing have had to draw down the number of 787s. They looked at a consolidation plan, and then they decided that they wanted to consolidate here in North Charleston. And while we recognize that can be a tough decision, especially given the legacy that they have in Washington State, I do think that it's a testament to South Carolina and to the diverse workforce that we have, the educational infrastructure that we've worked hard to build with the U of SC McNair Center, with Trident Tech and the Aeronautics Center, training center that they've built down there. I mean, I think all those things that we've worked so hard, that the cluster has worked hard to build, advocate for, and support over the past 10, 15 years, when these hard times do hit like this, it creates the opportunity for that decision to be made easier and make Charleston and the state of South Carolina a place that is attractive to consolidate. And so I think that diversification, that infrastructure, has really been the key accomplishment of the cluster, so that we can get through this hard time and see the growth on the other side.
The biggest thing that I see, SC Aero playing in the landscape in South Carolina, is that they're really a really critical link between industry and the state, whether it be for training, legislation, keeping pulse on the industry, things like that. I think that's really where their critical role is. On one side, I think they do a little bit of a service, but the other side, they're really supporting the industry from a lot of facets. Aerospace has grown very quickly over the past 10 years in South Carolina. And I think SC Aerospace really is that kind of medium between what is going on in the industry and what can the state do to help push that along and be there to support the industry.
What can those watching, as well as our industry partners, expect to see in 2021?
We have a really good foundation for supporting aerospace and really supporting the supply chain. I think the industry is as only good as the supply chain that supports it. and the work that's been done in South Carolina over the past several years to create that supply chain across the board is really probably the biggest advantage. Opportunity-wise, the aerospace market's changing. That's no secret. It's a very cyclical industry. We're seeing that downturn right now. But there's some exciting things, I think, coming along in the industry when it comes to things like urban air mobility, UAVs, things like that. I think aerospace is going to move more towards, on the production side, more towards automotive. Commercial aerospace will come back in time, but I think the foundation that South Carolina has when it comes to manufacturing, raw materials, even in the IT industry, which is really needed to support this UAM market, this kind of next jump in technology for transportation. I think South Carolina is very keyed in and very well set up to support that industry that's burgeoning right now.
If you looked back at the 2019 multi-state survey that we did, we've seen where South Carolina has really excelled in logistics and where we can still improve upon. Specifically, I look forward to working with our partners for education and workforce development to, just bring the supply chain and logistics to the workforce. In 2016, 442 million tons of freight moved across our state using railways, highways, airports, and waterways. That tonnage is expected to increase by 61% by 2040. So our economic impact study shows that our industry plays a huge part, but I'm looking forward to working on increasing this number even more. And to wrap it up with the technology aspect, we will have our annual Tech Talk on April 20th, 2021 at the Trident Tech Aeronautical Center. So this will focus on, the tech aspect of it, as well as homegrown companies on figuring out what we can do to make South Carolina even more competitive.
But this new kind of industry that's coming about with UAM and things like that, it's going to require a little bit different landscape of a supply chain. And I think with the work that's being done on the council when it comes to the technical component has really kind of laid that groundwork. And so I think we have a good mix of tech. I think we have a really good, obviously, mix of production and raw material. And then we have the training that we've put in place over these past, 10 or 12 years to support manufacturing on multiple levels. And so I think that's probably one of my biggest takeaways, that as difficult as things are right now, South Carolina in and of itself is in an extremely good place to support the industry going forward.
That reference to the 61% projection is interesting, right? Because I think everyone can pretty much agree across the state, we're not going to be constructing 61% more new roads. So we're really going to have to rely on technology efficiencies and processes to help get us there and get the wonderful products that we make out the door farther, better, and faster. So on behalf of the team at the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Chuck, for asking us to join in this very important conversation about the lifeblood of South Carolina's economy, our manufacturing sector. Thanks to all of the attendees and the participants for helping to contribute to this very important conversation about our state's economy. We certainly look forward to working with each and every one of you and going forward on behalf of South Carolina. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie Shannon, CEO at the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness, for leading that discussion. That completes the 6th session of the South Carolina Manufacturing Conference. In session 7, we'll be talking about robotics and sensors, predictive maintenance, and machine vision with deep learning, and you do not want to miss that. So we'll see you back here in just a few minutes.